So I use a button that's down there where to make the camera flip like. So I edit it while I go. And I know there's a better system for that, but that's what it is right now. So there's the button. There's also where the start record button is, and that's
Okay.
flips to you, flips to me. So okay, so anyway, so tell me about Max Weber. Weber.
Weber, yeah.
Yeah, who was he, and how did you first learn about him, and what impressed you about him?
He's a German sociologist. That's why it's pronounced Weber rather than Weber or Weber or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
He's a German, so you pronounce it. He was born in around 1856, I think, and died in 1920. He is probably the greatest German sociologist uh, ever.
And that's based on what, metric is his greatness?
Well, he's most famous for a book called The Protestant Ethic and the Rise of Capitalism, which argued that the rise of capitalism occurred because of belief systems in Protestantism, specifically Calvinist Protestantism, and not simply because of economic factors. So he's often considered the sort of bourgeois counterpart to Marx, because Marx argued that the capitalism, Marx was the first and one of the most brilliant theorists of capitalism, and he came out with his works just before Weber's rise in the late 19th century. I think he died quite early in the 20th century, or maybe late 19th century. And Marx's theory was that materialism was the dominant force in history. In other words, that economic factors were the prime cause for the rise of capitalism and for the rise of the working class and so forth. And the working class was the pioneer in a revolution. The working class would arise in a revolution to overthrow capitalism because of the way that capitalism evolved. It systematically deprived working class of uh, the amount of sustenance that they needed to stay alive. I mean, it simply immiserized the working class, and eventually they saw that they had a consciousness. They saw that they had a consciousness of their oppression and became aware of their oppression, and then joined together to overthrow the bourgeoisie. And Weber's contribution to that was to say, well, material factors were certainly a factor, but the ideal factors, that means ideas, even
Hmm.
religious factors, were also a factor in the rise of capitalism. So he did that with the Protestant ethic, but then he went beyond that, sort of a worldwide tour of various religious ideas and how they related to economics. He studied religious ideas, Hinduism in India, Buddhism in China and Japan, and even uh, the ancient Israelites, the Hebrews. He studied them too.
That answer surprises me because I always thought that he was uh, like I thought I didn't realize that was even I didn't even know he was a sociologist. So
Yeah.
was that were you still sort of studying sociology mostly at that time, or why? How did he come to influence you as a grad student, or as a or as an undergrad? When did you come into contact with his writings, and
Well, he
what's your
was a sociologist, but he was. But sociology was defined more broadly in those days, so that sociology was considered sort of social science. So he also wrote about political things. So he's included in the political science literature. He also had ideas about methodology, about how you do social science, and about authority and power and things like that that are very relevant to political science.
that I guess I think it was that methodology part that was where I kind of imagined your connecting with him, but I guess I could be wrong. What was your impression of him? What do you think that got you enamored of him, or like made him? How did he make an impression on you?
Well, he came up with these ideas that the ideal in social science should be objectivity and value freedom. In other words, freedom from your own values and trying to simply mirror the values of the people you were studying instead of trying to adapt your own these ideas to your own values. So that was very important. And he also came up with the idea of an ideal type. An ideal type is still controversial. It's a methodological idea that you just you have a picture of a phenomenon like capitalism or socialism, and you just draw an ideal type that's not exactly the way any capitalist system is or any social system is, but it's a general sort of model of what it is. It's a very controversial idea because it's not clear whether it's a normative model or whether it's an empirical model.
This is gonna let me pause for a second.